Well, do you know that most people look for somebody who is teachable, but at the same time, they don't want to be teachable? Let's take this again. Most people would look for, they would desire somebody who is teachable, but then themselves do not want to be teachable. So the question is, what is teachability and how can you become teachable? And what are the advantages of becoming teachable in life? This is Marketplace Media, an online platform that engages, equips, and encourages believers to say, inawezekana. If this is your first time to be on this platform, we encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that every time we upload a new video, YouTube will be able to notify you. And for those of you that have subscribed, thank you very much. We encourage you to keep on sharing it with your friend. For this particular video, put thumbs up so that we can continue growing the community and sharing the good news of equipping, of engaging, and encouraging believers wherever it is they are. My name is John Kemani. We still continue with the leadership lessons that we learn from the book of Acts. And previously we talked about recruiting volunteers. You can go to our YouTube channel to learn more. Today, I would wish us that we continue and learn about teachability. Somebody might ask, John, what is teachability? Our answer is very simple. Teachability is willing to have a beginner mindset. Teachability is willing to have a beginner mindset. Actually, somebody called Meister Eckhart actually said, be willing to be a beginner every single morning. As such, the teachability can be defined as that ability to be taught. It is having a learner's mode. It is being ready to learn that which you can be taught in your life. That's why we are asking the question, are you teachable? The character of teachability have actually two aspects to it. Number one is becoming a learner. That means you want to absorb. You admit that you do not know, but you need to know. And then the other aspect of teachability is willingness to pass on, to share insights to those that do not know, and you share it with what you have learned to others so that they can be at the level that you are in. That is very, very important. That means when we refuse to pass to others what you have learned and experienced, then that means that is contrary, that is opposite, that is against what God would want us to do in our lives. One of the classic examples, especially from the book of Acts, that cuts the image of a teachable person then is Apollos. Apollos was a Jew that came from Alexandria, that is Egypt, and he is described as eloquent. He is mighty in the scriptures, fervent in spirit, and instructed in the way of the Lord. Those are the descriptions that we find in Acts chapter 18, verse number 24. And just to get a glimpse of what Apollos was, because he will become our case study when we are illustrating the whole aspect of teachability. Let's go there and let's read about him. That is Acts chapter 18, verse 24 all the way to 28. We are doing it from Message version. Acts chapter 18, verse number 24. Let's read. A man named Apollos came to Ephesus. He was a Jew born in Alexandria, Egypt, and a terrific speaker, eloquent and powerful in his preaching of the scriptures. He was well educated in the way of the master and fiery in his enthusiasm. Apollos was accurate in everything he taught about Jesus up to a point, but he only went as far as the baptism of John. He preached with power in the meeting place When Priscilla and Aquila heard him, they took him aside and told him the rest of the story. When Apollos decided to go to Achaia province, his Ephesian friends gave their blessing and wrote a letter of recommendation for him, urging the disciples there to welcome him with open arms. The welcome paid off. Apollos turned out to be a great help to those who had become believers through God's immense generosity. He was particularly effective in public debate with the Jews as he brought out proof after convincing proof from the scriptures that Jesus was in fact God's Messiah. Very, very wonderful kind of a person. Effective teacher, eloquent, just fervent in spirit, just a good debater who is able to present, give rebuttals that are very convincing, that leave the debaters or the critics is makes them silent. And as we've read from that passage, we see that the book of Acts actually present Apollos is a very good teacher, an excellent teacher who was used by God in a number of cultures. In fact, he became Paul's right hand man. The most impressive thing about Apollos is that he was teachable. Not only was he a good teacher, but again, he was also teachable. He never taught, he never passed on, he never shared that which he himself had not learned. And so it is very important for us to pause there and say, you cannot become a good teacher. You cannot pass on that which you've not been able to learn yourself. And so it's very important for us to be able to know and understand that you only share, you only pass on that which you've learned. When you look at him, Luke, the author of this book, presents to us 7 important facts about this guy. Number 1, he came from a cultured city, that is Alexandria in Egypt. This was a cultured city, a city of elites, and a city where people were learned. Number 2, he was educated. He was not foolish. And for those of you who wonder why theologians must be educated, we believe this very illustration and this example from Apollos is a one-hit point that proves that God would want to use educated men. Number 3, he knew the scriptures well. He had mastered them. One of the grave disappointment, one of the grave things about Christianity is that a lot of believers do not know their Bible. And even doubt, just hold what we call a Bible contest and ask people to read Goliath chapter 2 and see people very busy flipping through looking where the book of Goliath is. Or just ask people to read Psalm 161 and you'll be shocked to see people actually looking for Psalm 161 without remembering that Psalm has 150 chapters. Or you would say, let's read the book of Colossians, only to see people rushing at the beginning of the Bible, not understanding that the book of Colossians is actually in the New Testament. For Apollos, he knew the scriptures well. Interesting enough is that he had not been taught the Christian faith. The only thing that he knew, the only thing that he taught was the baptism. And he had to have somebody to teach him about the Christian faith. He had an obvious gift, and the gifting was the ability to teach well, to teach in a convincing manner, in a simple way. We always say there is a difference between a teacher and a communicator. Apollos was a communicator. He made complex things. He made them look simple. He taught them accurately. That is the 6th fact about them. He checked what he was teaching. He never taught heresy. He cross-checked what he was saying to establish whether what he taught is true. And then he taught the truth passionately, with fire, with enthusiasm. He never got tired of teaching. Now, big time question we want to ask at this point. We want to ask ourselves, how can you be able to know a teachable person? What are the tail signs of a teachable person? If we look at Proverbs chapter 9, verse 8 to 9. Let's read that one. That is the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs, chapter 9, verse 8 and 9. This is what the Bible says. We are reading from Message version. So don't waste your time on a scoffer. All you get for your pains is abuse. But if you correct those who care about life, that's different. They will love you for it. Save your breath for the wise. They will be wiser for it. Tell good people what you know, and they will profit from it. I would wish that we read this passage from a different version. That is the English revised version. Let's do it, verse number 8. The Bible says, don't correct such people or they will hate you, but collect those who are wise and they will love you. Teach the wise and they will become wiser. Instruct those who live right and they will gain knowledge. Very, very powerful teaching there that we gain in that passage. Very, very powerful. Now, let's ask ourselves, how can we be able to know that so and so is a teachable person? Okay? 10 things. Number 1, a teachable person will learn something new every day. A teachable person will learn something new every day. Teachable people dedicate themselves to lifelong learning. They make learning part of their daily habit. When they read a book, they make notes. They highlight major points. They learn every day. The day you stop learning is the day you stop growing, and is the day you become irrelevant. A teachable person learns every day. One of the marks of billionaires is that they spend 30 minutes, an average of 30 minutes every day, learning something. Number 2, they have a spirit of humility. You cannot learn anything unless you admit that you do not know and you need to know. You cannot learn anything if you do not admit that you do not know and accept that you need to know. This is what we call learning mode. Learning mode is when you are curious, is when you discover you are hungry, you are empty, you are ignorant, and you need to know. Number 3, willingness to be corrected, willingness to receive counsel, willingness to receive instructions from others. Teachable people appreciate feedback from others. They ask, they embrace what others say to them because they know it's going to make them better. They don't reject feedback. They accept, they seek for it. They're intentional. How did I preach? Where do I need to improve? Okay? Number 4, a teachable person is somebody with opened eyes and unclogged ears. That means they are willing to observe, they are willing to reason. They don't have unclogged ears. But again, number 5, a teachable person have a closed mouth. A teachable person is somebody who spend a lot of time listening. Because the only way you can be able to taught is when you shut your mouth and learn so that you can continue leading. Remember, one of the quickest ways of becoming a good leader is when you sit and listen to others. Number 6, teachability entails interest. If you don't have interest, when you show this interest, it simply means that you are not a teachable person. A teachable person is interested in what they want to learn. That's why they wake up early. That's why they will buy the book. That's why they will go and hide themselves somewhere. That's why they will get a highlighter, a pen, and write and share because they have interest. Number 7, a teachable person have a positive outlook about life. He put a teachable person in a problem. They will see the good, the positive of that situation. While everybody is complaining and seeing the devil and the problems, a teachable person will be able to learn a few things and learn how he or she can turn that obstacle into an opportunity. They see obstacles as opportunities. They have a positive outlook about life. Number 8, a teachable person has a very strong desire to be around growing people. In other words, they surround themselves with the people of wisdom, people of experience, people with deep spiritual insight. They ask God to help them to be allowed that people. Remember, iron sharpens iron. Your destiny is determined by 2 things. It's determined by the books you read and the people that you hang around with. So a teachable person will intentionally gather him or herself around people who are full of insight, full of maturity, full of godliness, full of knowledge. That's why Jesus, even as young as 12 years, when his mother and father were looking for him, frantically worried where their teenage son is, they found him with interacting and talking with the elites, with the theological minds of his day. They found him with those people who had wisdom. It is very important. A teachable person who hang around teachable people. Men and women who have knowledge. Number 9, a teachable person is diligent. They are not lazy. They work HARD. They work hard. Because the more they learn, the more they want to know. They are never satisfied with what you know. They know that yesterday's knowledge is no longer applicable today. So they want to reinvent. They want to be able to know whether what they know today is applicable to what they learned yesterday is applicable today. For example, we are living in a very dynamic institution. When Facebook was starting out, Facebook did not have a live option. These days, Facebook is having a live option. And so if you think that Facebook cannot do live, that's the knowledge that you have, then you are outdated. And so these people, wise people, teachable people wants to update their information. That makes them diligent. And then finally, a teachable person is willing to apply what they have learned. Remember, James instructs us to be two things: to be hearers of the word and also doers of the word. And the only way we can be doers of the word is when we learn, is when we are teachable, so that we know what is it we are supposed to do. In the doing, we need to know a few things. We need to know what to do and what not to do. Number two, we need to know how to do it. We need to know how to do it. Number three, we need to know why we need to do it, or why we need not to do it. We need, number four, we need to know whom to do it with or not do it with. I want to believe, my dear viewer, that you've learned and you're able to put and cross-check whether you are learnable. So allow us quickly to teach us 5 guidelines of teachability. 7 guidelines of teachability. When we look at Apollos, our case study, it looks like Apollos, he was far much better than Paul. That's the casual observation. But even if that is the case, or should be the case, we have not said it is the case, the beautiful thing is that Apollos, whether he was an eloquent speaker, and accurate teacher, powerful orator, the beautiful thing is that Apollos remained teachable by admitting, I don't know. Admitting, I don't know. Number 2, he was healed of destination disease. Every time you feel I have achieved, every time when you feel like I have made it, that is the beginning of losing teachability. Number 3, Apollos was teachable because he overcame his success. One of the biggest and greatest hindrances in life is when we become successful. When we look at the past trophies and see how far we've come, we think we do not need to do more. We need to be future oriented to become teachable. Number 4, Apollos was teachable because he avoided hasty shortcuts. For you to achieve, you need to follow the long route. You see? Listen to this. The longest distance between 2 points is a shortcut. Shortcuts will cut your life. They will short circuit you. You never become successful. Number 5, Apollos was teachable because he never allowed himself to pay the price twice for the same mistakes. It is okay to make a mistake, but it is foolish, it is naive to keep on making the same mistake. It simply means you are not growing. Growing means that you make mistake, but once you make a mistake, you grow from it. Number 6, Apollos was teachable because he had placed himself under a mentor. He had placed himself under a mentor. A mentor is very important in your life because apart from teaching you what you need to know to accomplish God's given purpose in your life, a mentor will encourage you. A mentor will supervise you. A mentor becomes an accountable partner to whom you answer to. A mentor ensures that you become successful by teaching you mistakes you need to avoid and paths that you need to follow. So praise yourself under a mentor. And then finally, it's very important as we learn from Apollos to learn to ask for help. Learn to ask for help. You need to realize that when you ask for help, you're not simply saying you are foolish. Actually, the myth out there is that leaders should not ask for help. But one of the things we've learned is that when we ask for help, we become a more cohesive team. Our juniors feel wanted and valued. And so it is very important for you to learn to ask for help, because it will help you to avoid making mistakes. Okay? And when you ask for help, the juniors and those that are around you will be able to point to you red flags. Okay? I love a quote that by Chris that goes something like this. The unteachable man is sentenced to be taught only by experience. The tragedy is he reaches nothing further than his own pain. Wisdom demands that we learn from other people's mistakes. Let's not learn from our own experience. It is very important for you as a leader to develop teachability yesterday. One of the most useful tools that we need to put and place in our leadership bag is teachability. When we fail to become teachable, we become arrogant, we become redundant, we become useless, we lose credibility. Nobody wants to follow us because we are not willing to be taught. Remember, you cannot be followed by anybody. You cannot share. You cannot pass on anything that you've not been taught. As part of developing teachability, this is what we do. Number one, every month we ensure we have read a book. Read, pick a book. Our choice of books that we read are four. We read books on leadership. We read books on attitude. We read books on entrepreneurship. And we read books on public speaking. Every time when I pick up a book, I am armed with a highlighter. I am armed with a highlighter and a pen. Okay, these two. I highlight key quotations from the book, and with this pen, I will write important ideas or reflections that I glean from that book. So, every time when you look at a book that I've read, it is always dirty with a lot of marks. This is what they say. If you want to know the nature of a Christian, pick up his Bible. If the Bible is clean, it simply means this Christian is dirty, is impure. If his Bible or her Bible is dirty, then it simply means that this is a clean Christian. So, read a book, highlight, do notes, and then the third thing that I do after reading a book is to share what I have learned. The value of sharing what you learn is that it increases your understanding. Every time when I share what I have learned with people, seems like there's still more that I need to share. We encourage you to, from today, to be teachable. This is Marketplace Believers, an online